The blessings of Ghaus Azam, the blessings of Ghaus Azam, the blessings of Ghaus Azam, the blessings of Ghaus Azam.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel. Indeed, there are many benefits for reciting Durood Sharif, Salawat and salutations upon our beloved Master, the owner of Jannah, the knower of the unseen, Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam. One of those many benefits is this, that it is reported in a summary of hadith that the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam has mentioned that person who forgot to recite durood and salawat upon me has forgotten the way to Jannah. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salatan wa salaman alayka ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Indeed, Allah Azza wa Jal has granted many bounties and benefits upon His close servants, His beloveds, namely the awliya Allah. And the Sultanul Awliya, the king of all awliya Allah, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, is indeed no exception. We hear so many of his karamat. One karama, one miracle and marvel of his, it is worth mentioning again. It was mentioned before that a very old lady was crying at a river bank, and Ghaus Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi had inquired as to why she was grief-stricken, why she was crying. He was informed that her son, who had just got married, he had died a long time ago, about 12 years ago, and he was on a boat with the wedding procession with his bride, and the boat had sunk, they had died. This was 12 years ago, and every day she comes out at the same time and she cries because of her extreme sadness. Ghaus Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, out of sympathy for this old lady, he made dua in the court of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. After some time, what do you think happened? After some time, they saw this wedding procession on that boat arriving. It arrived and they were well, they were alive. This karama was witnessed, this miracle was witnessed by so many people, and all those who were there, especially the non-Muslims who were there, they witnessed this and they embraced Islam. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Now, dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers, listeners of Madani channel, life and death indeed are under the authority of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. But if Allah Azza wa Jal, He desires, He wants and He wills, He can bestow, He may bestow this power of revival, He may bestow it to His chosen servants. If we imagine someone other than Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal bringing a dead person back to life, then this will not affect our iman in any way, our faith in any way. If someone has come and whispered waswasa, evil thoughts into our heart, into our minds, which evil thoughts are from shaitan, from Satan the cursed one, then only Allah Azza wa Jal can raise the dead. That he is going, this person who says this, he is going in fact against the teachings of the glorious Quran. It has been clearly mentioned in the glorious Quran that Sayyidina Isa ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, what would he do? His mu'ajizat, his miracles that Allah Azza wa Jal bestowed upon him, he used to cure the sick and he used to revive the dead, make the dead alive, indeed by the command of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. It is stated in Surah Ali Imran verse 49 that Sayyidina Isa Ruhullah ala nabiyyina wa alayhi salatu wassalam, and I heal him who was born blind and the leper and I revive the dead by the command of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. Hopefully, this evil thought that may appear in our minds or may be put by others would have perished, inshallah ta'ala. Because a Muslim has firm belief about everything that it is stated in the glorious Quran and does not accept anything which is contradictory to the glorious Quran. Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal bestows His chosen servants with these supernatural powers, and through them He reveals marvels which are beyond our intellect. No doubt the intellect of worldly people cannot comprehend the magnitude of the power that Allah Azza wa Jal has bestowed upon His chosen servants, especially the awliya Allah. Our Ghaus Pak Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi indeed used to strive much in the path of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. So much so that he rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi had stated, I spent 25 years in the jungles of Iraq. How many years? 25 years in the jungles of Iraq, enduring extreme hunger, thirst. Why? To gain the pleasure of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. If only we as well, if we can make our minds at least just a little bit to travel with the Madani Qafilas of Dawat Islami, to propagate the teachings of Islam and the Sunnah of the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam throughout the world, inshallah ta'ala, we too will gain some proximity to Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The King of Baghdad, the King of Awliya Allah, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, had said, I would intend to pick up the fallen things or leaves and even to eat grass. I would intend to do this, but I would leave them, making self-sacrifice for others who would also be in search of these things. I would remain hungry. When I became extremely weak and was close to death, I found something lying on the floor near the flower market. I picked it up. I sat at one corner to eat, but suddenly I saw a non-Arab who was a youngster who had fresh bread and roasted meat. He sat beside me and began to eat. When I saw him eating, my desire for food intensified. When he would take the morsel of food to his mouth, I would open my mouth so that perhaps he may put it into my mouth. This is his hunger. However, I rebuked my nafs, this carnal self. I rebuked my nafs and I asked it to have sabr, to be patient, as Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal is with me. I clarified to my nafs that I would never ask this young man for anything to eat. All of a sudden, turning towards me, the youngster said, my brother, please come and join me in this meal. I refused, but he insisted. My nafs also insisted that I eat, but I continued to observe sabr and patience. However, I ate a little due to the insistence of this young man. He then asked me, where are you from? I told him I was from Jilan. He said that he was also from Jilan. He further asked that if I knew Shaykh Abdul Qadir rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, who was the grandson of the famous wali Sayyid Abdullah Soma'i rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi. I replied, I was that person, Abdul Qadir. Listening to this, the youngster became anxious and he said, when I was leaving for Baghdad, your mother gave me 8 gold coins to give to you. Having reached Baghdad, I searched for you, but I could not find where your whereabouts were, and I had spent the money. I have been hungry for 3 days. When I became helpless due to extreme hunger, I bought some bread and this roasted meat with some of your money. He then said, Your Honor, please eat this food without hesitation, because actually you are the owner. Previously, you are my guest and now I am your guest. Giving me the remaining money, he said, I apologize to you. I bought this food in the state of helplessness and because of extreme hunger. Hawth Pak then said, I became very happy when I heard this. I then gave him the remaining food and money, which he accepted and left. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, this parable, this incident contains many Madani pearls for us. On one hand, our beloved Hawth Pak rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, he set such a beautiful example of self-sacrifice by giving food and money to this young man, even in the state of extreme starvation, extreme poverty. On the other hand, there is us, who we call ourselves the followers and the lovers of Hawth Pak rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Our condition is that even if we eat the meal of Niyaz of Gyarwi Sharif, we miss no opportunity to consume as much food voraciously, depriving even others of their share. This is the condition of many of us. O admirers, followers and lovers of Hawth Azam rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, whenever your nafs tries to make you devour food in big morsels without chewing them properly while eating with others, recall this parable of Hawth Pak rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, as well as this following hadith of the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Listen carefully. It is recorded in Ihya'ul Ulum. The beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam mentioned, whoever gives the thing that he needs for himself to any other person, Allah Azza wa Jal will forgive him. Subhanallah. It is stated in Faizan Sunnat, the world famous Faizan Sunnat written by Shaykh al-Tariqat Amir Ahl-Sunnat Damat Barakatuhum al-Aliyah, volume 1, page 482, that Shaykh Abu Sulaiman rahmatullah ta'ala Ali had mentioned. To refrain from satisfying any desire of the nafs is more beneficial to the heart than even fasting for 12 months and worshipping at night. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Advising his murideen, his disciples and followers, Hawth Azam rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi mentioned, Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, I spent 25 years in the jungles of Iraq. I managed to offer Isha and Fajr Salah with the same wudu for 40 years. The same wudu for 40 years. Similarly, I kept the routine of reciting the entire Quran for 15 years in Nafil Salah after Isha. At the beginning, I would fasten a rope around my waist and tie the other end of this rope to a hook in the wall so that I would not fall asleep. One night, I intended to perform my usual ibadat and worship. My nafs, it suggested that I take a little rest first and perform worship afterwards. At the very same moment and place where that thought occurred to me, I recited the whole Quran standing only on one leg. Subhanallah. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Oh, the admirers, oh, the followers of Hawth Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, have you seen how abundantly our Hawth Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi would worship Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal? Allah Azza wa Jal forbid. If we are lazy in offering even our 5 times salah daily, how can we be able to justify our claim of being the admirers and followers of Hawth Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi? On a Wednesday, the 27th of Dhul Hijjah, 529 Hijri, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, along with a qafila of Islamic scholars and pious men, they visited the grave of his honorable teacher, Shaykh Hamad rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Hawth Azam rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi kept making continuous dua and supplication at the grave of his blessed teacher till the sun was intense. The heat of the sun was intense. As he rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi returned, his face showed some signs of delight, of happiness. He rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi was then asked as to why he made such a long dua. He rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi replied, on Friday, the 15th of Sha'ban, 499 Hijri, I and my respected teacher Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, who is resting in this grave, with a qafila to offer Salatul Jumu'ah. Now on the way, while crossing a bridge, Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi suddenly pushed me, causing me to fall into that stream, that river. It was a very cold day, but I recited Bismillah and I made the intention of Friday bath ghusl. Having performed the ghusl, I came out, squeezed the water from my woolen robe and rejoined the qafilah. The disciples, murideen of Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, began to laugh. But he rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi scolded them and said, I did so just to test Abdul Qadir, and I found him as strong as a rock. Subhanallah. Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi further said, while making dua, I saw my respected teacher Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi in his grave. I saw him dressed in clothes embroidered with diamonds, with a crown of rubies on his head, golden bracelets around his hands, and golden shoes that he was wearing. But the odd thing was that his right hand was not moving. I asked him the reason for this, and he replied, this is the hand whereby I pushed you into that canal, that river, causing you to fall into it. Will you forgive me? I forgave him. He then said, please make dua to Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal so that He enables me to use this right hand of mine. I then prayed to Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, and 5,000 awliya Allah, saints of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, said Ameen from inside their graves. By the grace of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, he became able to use his right hand. He then shook hands with me out of happiness. This news spread throughout Baghdad. Listening to it, the disciples, the followers of Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi were somewhat offended and made their way to the court of Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi to inquire about this. But no one had the courage to do so. Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he got to know about their inner state and said, choose two shuyukh for the solution to this problem. The disciples of Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi chose Shaykh Yusuf Hamdani and Shaykh Abdul Rahman Kurdi rahmatullah ta'ala alayhima, who had spiritual insight, and gave Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi 2 days respite, that both the chosen shuyukh should express their approval for what Ghaus Azam had said within 2 days. Ghaus Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi said, Inshallah Azza wa Jal, this problem will be solved even before you leave. Ghaus Azam rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi then lowered his blessed head. Seeing this, all those who were present over there also lowered their heads. Suddenly, Shaykh Yusuf Hamdani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi entered barefoot and said, with Allah's command, I have just seen Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, who asked me to go to the madrasa of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi and declare that Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, what he has said about him, Shaykh Hamad, is indeed true. Meanwhile, Shaykh Abdul Rahman Kurdi rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi also arrived and said the same thing. Upon hearing this, the disciples of Shaykh Hamad rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi apologized to Ghaus Azam rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Indeed, my dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, we can see many other karamat of the great Ghaus Pak rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us the ability of understanding and to follow these beloveds of His, so we may attain benefit in this world, the qabr, and the hereafter. Inshallah ta'ala. Ameen. Bijahi Nabil Ameen. Sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.